DETV Sports Update is powered by DART, Delaware's transit service. Moving forward.
And welcome live to Market Street here in Wilmington, Delaware. Of course, the home of DETV, where we bring to you DETV Sports weekly. We are back. Matthew and I, of course, are here to talk about everything going on in the sports world. Dennis behind the glass. You're going to hear from him in a little while. We'll get Dennis's question of the day and, of course, his trivia question. That all to come later on. Today, we are here to talk about our top 25 or top 20 tight ends and quarterbacks as we head in now to the peak of fantasy football draft season. Of course, almost all of our drafts are going to be completed here in the next week or two before we head into the opener on Thursday, September 4th, where the Eagles open up with the Cowboys here to open up our 2025 NFL season. So we are going to be talking quarterbacks, tight ends, as well as some other news here from NFL training camp. Matthew, how you feeling? We are back here on a Monday, a week later, and a nice little fun pre-show meeting we had here this morning before we got here. A lot of things going on here at DETV. We were thrilled to be back and excited to talk some quarterbacks, some tight ends, and a lot of other things that we talked about here before the show.
Yeah, no, I'm happy, man. Let's get it started,
Let's get it started. A lot to get into.
And
let's dive right in. We're having fun here to start on this Monday evening. Well, let's dive in and talk a little bit about quarterbacks. I don't know if we've ever gotten to the show this quickly, Matthew, so let's jump in and let's talk about it. We're going to now hit our fantasy quarterbacks, our top 20 to 25. Before we get into our tiers and rankings, so would you go top 20 or top 25 for your quarterbacks today?
Top 20.
Me too.
I wouldn't go deeper than that. Yeah. I think you have to be in a huge league to go deeper than that. So
again, we're going to see how Dennis wants to do it here today. You're going to see my tiers, you're going to see Matthew's tiers, and then we are going to talk about it. So let's all start here at the top of tier number one. And before we get into our first, however many we have it in our tier ones, I just want to know, Matthew, first off to start, who is your top-ranked quarterback heading into 2025?
Josh Allen.
There we go. I had a little part of me thought you might go Lamar Jackson, but I'm with you. I have the Josh Allen jersey today due to the topic, of course, here, talking about quarterbacks. He is my number one quarterback as well. He's been the number one quarterback in fantasy 2 of the last 3 seasons. Yep. We'll see if he can keep that rolling here. So now let's talk a little bit about your tier one, and then I'll follow up with mine here. Sure. How many quarterbacks are in your tier one, and who comes after Josh Allen?
Well, in fantasy, I think there are 2 tier one guys. That's Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. That's it for me, a tier one.
So for my tier one, it might look a little bit different on the one I sent to Dennis. I might have had an error here. My tier one is 4 quarterbacks. I think you can't go any wrong with the top 4.
4?
Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, and Jaden Daniels. I think those all 4, for the most part, are always going to finish in or around each other. Of course, if I had to choose the top one, mine would be Josh Allen. Number 2, Lamar Jackson. Number 3, Jalen Hurts. And then number 4, Jaden Daniels. So I think with those 4, I have them ahead of everybody else here. And Joe Burrow starts tier 2 for me, Matthew, but he's right on that borderline behind Jaden Daniels there for quarterback 4. Again, Hurts, Jackson, Allen, and Daniels all with over 18 points per game last year. Lamar Jackson, I think, had 14 games with 20 or more points last year as well. So for me, it's Allen and Jackson at the top, but Hurts and Daniels right behind him. They're all going to finish, in my opinion, in the same range. Matthew, who's in your tier 2?
Daniels, Burrow, Hurts.
So there you go, sticking with what we know Matthew to be loyal to, and that is Jalen Hurts at the bottom of that tier. And talk a little bit about your tier 2 there. Joe Burrow leads the way. So where do you have Daniels or Burrow first?
Daniels first.
Daniel first. So talk a little bit about your tier 2.
I mean, I just think Daniels, he's going to take the next step forward to this year. I think he's got a better chance at getting touchdowns by a larger margin. I don't think you have to. He doesn't need trick plays. He doesn't need to hone in on one thing. I think he's going to pass better than Hurts will. And I think a lot of Hurts' value is tied into the tush push. Mm-hmm. I mean, for example, if there's a situation where, I don't know, maybe they're looking at it like maybe we're going to have other guys this year. And look, it hasn't happened. I give Jalen Hurts credit. It has not happened during Hurts' time, and we haven't seen that with real rushing quarterbacks before. I'm a preference on that. Usually with rushing quarterbacks, the touchdowns the following year take a significant dip. Hurts is a little different. He's not a true, really rushing quarterback in the mold of Vic, Newton, and other guys. He's more of a goal line rusher. So yeah, in that thing, I think Hurts is going to still finish with top 5 value. That's not any shade at him. I have him in tier 2. I don't even have the guy that everybody knows that I believe I think he's the best quarterback of his generation. I don't even have Mahomes in here, so I don't see how that's hate. If it was really hate, I'd have Mahomes ahead of Hurts.
Yeah, okay, I'm with you there. I do agree with you on that one. Can't say too much about that. So for my tier 2, Matthew, again, on my top 4 in tier 1, Joe Burrow starts my tier 2, which has 3 quarterbacks, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and Baker Mayfield. It was tough for me because the guy that I'm really on, I'm just going to say we're going to wait a little bit later, but my sleeper quarterback here, my favorite late round or just mid-round pick your quarterback is Bo Nix from the Denver Broncos. Again, come in, wasn't the biggest guy on him coming out of Oregon that year. I mean, played over 60 college football starts between Auburn and Oregon. Came in, had a really rough start last year for Denver. The first 4 games, he looked very bad, and then they really got things going towards the mid. Then the end of the season, he was really clicking, led Denver to the playoffs, in his rookie year. I think he could take that next step. Cortland Sutton is re-signed. They add some help in the backfield, R.J. Harvey. They bring in Evan Ingram from Jacksonville. Is going to be a very good receiving tight end for them here in that offense with Sean Payton. So give me Bo Nix up there as my kind of the guy that I'm trying to get in all my drafts this year, at the right price. He's going a little bit later on, between rounds like 8, 9, and 10. So I'd love to get him in the 8th if I could there for Bo Nix. He's my 8th quarterback that begins tier 3 for me. But my tier 2, Matthew, Burrow, Mahomes, and Mayfield. So let's talk about Mahomes here. You just talked about him. Where do you have him there in your rankings?
Tier 3. He's next first guy next.
So overall, was that 6, 7, 8?
It makes him 6.
Yep, 6. So we both have him at 6 there. And he's been talking a lot after that Super Bowl, how they got embarrassed, and he's ready to kind of, get back to the old form. He thinks
sure.
They've had the top 2 scoring defenses the last 2 years. And if you look back to 3 years ago, that was kind of when he lit it up through the air. He really, showed off that arm. And then the defense got really good. They didn't really have to throw themselves out of certain situations. Well, this year, we'll see how the defense is. Should still be pretty good. But they get Rashee Rice back, hopefully. We'll see how the suspension goes in the middle of the season. Xavier Worthy, another year there. Hollywood Browns healing up. Travis Kelce said he'll be in better shape this year.
Yeah,
Do you expect an uptick here for Mahomes this year? Is this a big rebound year for Patrick Mahomes, or do you expect to see kind of what we saw last year? The Chiefs still be very successful, him be the best quarterback in the NFL on the field, and maybe not the best fantasy quarterback, or do you think that fantasy quarterback goes back up?
I think he goes up a little bit more than he did last year. I don't know how much more, but I do think he has a better year than he did last year. I just think he's going to have more weapons. He's going to have guys that are healthier. And I think the bigger issue for the Chiefs, yes, some of you guys, and I'm not going to talk about the fan base in particular, but when you have a gluttony of talent and you have certain talents that you have to lock up, this is what happens. And then particularly when you have the quarterback position that really takes a lot of money, you start to have to do more with less in today's NFL. So I think that's what's been going on with Mahomes. I mean, Mahomes is making, like 60+ million, 65 million or something like that?
Yeah, and he did. I mean, he would obviously be the highest paid quarterback, but he took a pay cut, even to get some of those guys that they have, especially on defense, over there in Kansas.
So again, I think this is the nature of the new NFL. And, it always, I had this whole conversation with other people in the space, talking about quarterbacks. And a lot of people said, well, the reason why Jalen Hurts is undervalued is because there's the struggle narrative that people want to put on quarterbacks. I don't think there's a struggle narrative. I think there's a reality narrative. And the reality narrative is quarterbacks look really good when things are fully loaded. When things aren't as loaded, things tend to change. So and I'm not taking any shots at this person, but I seen Gilly come out and disrespect Cam and say a whole bunch of things. Listen, Hurts has all the talent around him, and that's cool. I hope and I picked the Eagles to win the Super Bowl this year, so obviously I'm not hating. Yeah. But what's going to happen when they start having to lock in some of those other guys? What's going to start happening when his contract really starts taking into effect? When that starts happening, we're going to see, I think, different things. And when you have different things, different results might happen. Maybe Hurts takes a step forward and has more production with his passing and his passing touchdowns. Could happen, for sure. But also the opposite could happen. I mean, I've seen Brock Purdy. He was putting up magical numbers when the talent was fully loaded. This is going to be a big test for him this year. We're going to see, are you that guy? And as much as we're talking about Mahomes, and I've never heard anybody think of Mahomes as not a generational quarterback. And I've never heard anybody not have Mahomes as a top 3 quarterback of all time in this era.
And the best quarterback right now at this stage.
Right.
Active.
Now, you guys that love to talk stats, This is where the stat conversation and what I'm talking about, the real conversation, happens. We just all sat here and say all this stuff about Mahomes. Where's his numbers look like, though? Burrow had probably one of the best years we've ever seen at the quarterback position, just about. Okay, how come we don't have him number one? How come all these other questions that we have with Josh Allen still? No matter what we say, talent plays a part in a quarterback's production and a quarterback's what we can expect. So yeah, I know Hurts is going to do well this year. I know he's probably going to, you can probably pencil him in for 10 to 12 rushing touchdowns. I know that he's going to make better passes. Each year I've seen his efficiency with passing get better and better. I think he's going to get more comfortable in this offense. So clearly I am very high on the Eagles. But I just think when this conversation happens, people get really stupid and then they make really dumb conversations. Like Baker Mayfield, case in point. He's another guy I have. I have him actually next. Yep. So I have Mahomes 6th, I have Baker 7th. Baker Mayfield has a gluttony of talent too around him.
Absolutely.
In there. There have been some things that he's had to work out as a quarterback. He was not very good throwing at the run, off the run when he was in the Browns. He's been much better with this iteration with the Tampa Bay Bucks with throwing in the run. So that's the thing. There's going to be changes that are going to be made with all these guys. But at the end of the day, there's also the reason why Kyler Murray is, I think, going to take a little step this year. I have him as the next guy after that because he's got Trey McBride, who I think is probably the second best tight end in the game right now. Yeah. He's got, I think, an emerging Marvin Harrison Jr. And I think he has a goal line back in Connor. So I think there's things that he's got available to him that he didn't have in the past. So again, weapons matter. And at the end of the day, when you're not Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, or even Jalen Hurts, an offensive line is of the utmost importance. And I think that's the biggest question for the Chiefs. How good is that offensive line this year? If that offensive line can maintain some resemblance of really good pass defense, pass blocking, I think he's going to do well. If they can't, obviously what we saw in the Super Bowl, which I predicted, happened. Because all year you saw bad O-line play. If there's anything that the Chiefs need to focus on with Mahomes, it's O-line play. O-line is terrible. And I think San Francisco's got the same issues. So
yeah, and again, both of those teams drafting offensive tackles here in this last draft. And for the Chiefs in the first round, it was the offensive tackle from Ohio State, Josh Simmons, who, had he not torn that paternal tendon in his chest earlier in the season, he might have been a top 10 pick. And he seems to be really shining there in training camp so far. So that could end up being a steal for them. That'd be huge. Trey Smith, they re-signed him, one of the best guards in the league there. He'll be ready to go for next year. Joe Tooney, they traded over to Chicago. So some few changes, like you mentioned, they're up there, but they're looking to improve. I think Simmons is going to be a big part of that this year. I think it could be a big year for the Chiefs. So I'm with you there on Mahomes. I think it's going to be a bounce back year for him. I do think he's going to have better stats than we've seen out of him the last 2 years. And to your point on Baker Mayfield, me and you were seeing eye to eye there. 6 Mahomes, 7 Baker for me to round out my tier 2. Baker was phenomenal last year, over 40 touchdown passes. When you look historically, last year it was Burrow and Mayfield. They were huge. They really outperformed what everybody thought they were going to do. Just in terms of through the air, Burrow doesn't run as much. Baker ran a little bit more last year, as you mentioned, which helped his floor. So he picked up a few rushing touchdowns, had 3 or 4 on the ground last year, so that helped those points and everything there. But they, like you said, they reloaded. Emeka Egbuka, the first-round pick out of Ohio State. McMillan's back after last year. That receiving room, even with Godwin banged up, he'll be back hopefully after a month, best-case scenario there. They're going to be rolling. Tristan Wirfs did go down. The offensive line might take a little bit of a hit there. He's fantastic on the left side, but they will be able to adapt and overcome. That offense is going to be ready to rock and roll. It was a top 5 offense last year. Could be a top 5 offense this year. The question in terms of fantasy would be, how good is the defense? Last year it wasn't great, and the offense had to overcome a lot of that. That's what we saw to Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. They had to keep scoring just to be in some of these games. I do think Tampa's defense is going to be a little bit better there, so I don't think they're going to have to score as much. But I do think Baker Mayfield has that capability, and I think that offense is going to be ready to rock and roll. He is my 7th-ranked quarterback there in Tier 2, and that'll take us to Tier 3, who we have is my sleeper quarterback, my pick of the year there in Bo Nix. He'll be my quarterback I'm looking to get in a lot of drafts. And then Matthew, for me, in Tier 3 at number 9, Brock Purdy. So I've got Purdy at 9, followed by Kyler Murray 10, Justin Fields 11, Dak Prescott 12, and then Caleb Williams I have up at 13, Herbert 14, May 15. So a big Tier 3 for me. It goes from 8 to 15. What about you?
Yeah, I'm not mad at that. My tier, that's my Tier 4 actually, because my Tier 3 was different. My Tier 4 starts with Bo Nix. My fear about Bo is really twofold. A, I wasn't expecting what happened with Bo Nix. I'm one of those people that I did not like Bo Nix coming out of Oregon. I was like, He surprised me. He did really well. I know they've been giving him some weapons. I think they should have got Hampton from North Carolina. I think he would have fit better. But
That's who I think that's who I wanted him.
but listen, they've been giving him. They've been giving him stuff that he can play with this offense. I just want to see one more year with him. I am not against taking him in the top 10 with QBs. For me, if I took a Bo Nix, I probably would come back in another couple rounds later and maybe take, I don't know, if I could, a Jared Goff or something like that. Just somebody who, in case Bo Nix gets that sophomore slump or maybe think defenses kind of mess with him a little bit more. And we did see this with Mac Jones, for example. Mac Jones had a phenomenal rookie year. I was all in on Mac. I said, Mac's going to be good to go.
You were upset the Niners didn't take him at 3, right? With
right.
Trey Lance. Yeah.
I didn't want him. Well, you know, that's the funny thing. I actually thought Trey was going to be all right. Actually, I wanted Justin Fields, who I have coming next.
Yeah, well.
Listen, this for Fields and Herbert, and I know that's a crazy name to throw out there. I think, and Trevor Lawrence, those 3 quarterbacks, I think this year is the biggest year of their lives because
make or break, right?
Make or break. Herbert and Fields are definitely on the hot seat in terms of, especially Fields. Fields' seat is on fire because, and I mean seat as in quarterback 1 seat, because if Fields does not do what the talent suggests, people are going to look past him now being a starting quarterback. We saw this. I just saw the preseason game. Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston has never been able to get back in the good graces of NFL GMs and scouts. They will no longer ever look at Jameis Winston as being anything more than a career backup. He has totally lost that chance to have a QB1 status attached to his name. That's where Fields is at. If Fields doesn't have the year that people think he should have, he's going to lose that forever. Trevor Lawrence, he's got a little bit more tread because he had a really spectacular couple years ago, and he did a lot with very little. So look, Trevor still got it there, but Trevor, again, he was one of those guys rated extremely high. Man, it just it changes everything. And then let me find Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott's going to take another step this year. I think. Honestly, if you're looking for a QB in fantasy and you want to, and the top guys have been taken, right?
Yeah. Dak and you got him late.
And Brock Purdy and Justin Herbert, because I think there's going to be some Brock Purdy people that are going to be like, I think those 3 guys have really good value, especially Dak Prescott. They have some really good talent there.
Yeah, I mean my top, and just run me through after Baker. You have 8. Baker at 7.
Yep.
And then run me 8 through 12.
8 through 12, I have Fields, Brock Purdy, Justin Herbert.
Gotcha.
Did I mention? No, it's a Kyler, yeah. Jared Goff. Mm-hmm. And then, look, I still got love for this guy. C.J. Stroud, Jordan Love, and then I finish it with Caleb Williams. Yeah. Caleb Williams scares me a little bit. He just does. There's things about Caleb Williams that I really enjoy watching. I was not a guy that really liked his tape at USC. There were things about that he did on that field. I was just like, I don't know. And still to this day, like I see him as a quarterback that like has exciting moments. And there are times when I watch him play and I'm like, man, that was a really spectacular play. And there's other times where I'm like, yeah, I just don't see the generational quarterback that's been attached to him. I don't see QB1 with him. I just don't. So we'll find out. Yeah. I mean, this is another make or break year. And look, Chicago, unlike when they had with Fields, they've been giving him loads of weapons. So if he doesn't take steps forward this year, he has no one to blame but himself, because I will give Chicago credit. They have definitely gone out in the draft and definitely in free agency tried to get him as much pieces as he can possibly have at that line. So
yeah, I mean, Ben Johnson himself, the best offensive play caller in the NFL, coming over to be the head coach. They give him that big deal, Ryan Poles over there in Chicago, and Then, of course, you met Romo Dunze last year in the top 10 in the draft. Colston Loveland, a top 10 pick at tight end this year in the draft. And they go out and they take Luther Burden early in the second round in this draft as well. They've got some firepower. We'll see how it all comes together. And that Ben Johnson offense looked really good yesterday or over the weekend in the preseason. But again, it's the preseason, so it doesn't mean much. They're going to have to do it here once the regular season comes around. So for me, I had Bo Nix at 8. I had Brock Purdy at 9. I think Brock Purdy's going to have a good year this year. I think the Niners, if McCaffrey stays healthy, Kittle, obviously don't have Debo this year, but I think Pearsall is going to be good when he steps in. I think it's going to be a rebound year for the 49ers offensively. So I think that offense is going to have a good year. I got Kyler Murray 10, Justin Fields 11, and Dak Prescott 12. So those are my top 12, or at least QB1s coming in for this year. And I want to focus on just Justin Fields here, as you mentioned. Couldn't agree more. Him and Trevor Lawrence. How about this? Trevor Lawrence is going to be in year 5. Isn't it crazy? Year 5, we're still just waiting for anything.
Still waiting.
They had that big playoff victory when they were down 27-0. They came back and beat that Chargers team a few years ago. But other than that, not a lot of success for the golden boy, quote unquote, coming out of Clemson, one of the highest ranked quarterback prospects that we've seen. So it's do or die for him. I'm with you 100%. And do or die for Justin Fields as well. Third team he's been on. He's a very good fantasy quarterback when he plays. He's been a top 10 quarterback a couple of those years in Chicago, and he was quarterback 6 in the first however many games he played with Pittsburgh last year. So he's a good fantasy quarterback. Is he a good NFL quarterback? That's to be determined. But when he's out there, he can run. He puts points on the board as in a fantasy perspective. Not sure if you had any time to watch the Jets preseason game yesterday or Saturday. I had a chance to check out the first 2 drives. They played the starters. And it was I almost had to turn the channel. I mean, it was hard to watch. You watched Fields?
Yeah, it was brutal.
He couldn't even hit a receiver. He threw 2 balls in the dirt. I mean, it was like, it looked like he didn't belong on an NFL field. I mean, it's a preseason, it's a few snaps, a few plays, whatever. We've seen him obviously be able to throw the football. It was just weird to watch. It just didn't look great. So I'm eager to see how this offense looks once the regular season comes around. The offensive line's supposed to be good, et cetera. But the Giants ate them up with that defense over the weekend. So maybe it's the Giants defense everybody's talking about. Is it that good? Or maybe Justin Fields in the offense that bad. We'll find out. But from a fantasy perspective, I've got him here at 11. So he has a quarterback 1 for me. If you can grab him late, the later the better there. You mentioned your tier 4. And for me, that's where I have Jordan Love, Jared Goff, Lawrence, Stroud. I have Michael Penix in that tier alongside with McCarthy. And then the big question mark for me here at 22 or at 22 is Matthew Stafford. He practiced today for the first time in a couple weeks, but we don't know how significant that back injury is. He's an older quarterback, an older player, so one hit could be it, for him. So we're not sure what there, but if he does play, he's obviously had success from a fantasy perspective and obviously as a quarterback, in real life NFL football. So just something to think about there. I did 25 quarterbacks, and my last tier is Tam Ward, Tua, and then Geno Smith at 25. But as you mentioned at the top of the show here, you don't need that many quarterbacks unless you're in a super flex league, and then obviously that's a little bit different. You're starting 2 quarterbacks, then you might have up the top 25. So that ends it for me.
Any thoughts about Bryce Young this year?
That's a good question. That's a good one. For me, I'm not as high on Bryce Young as some of the other people after the finish of last year. Everybody likes to point to the second half of last year. He was, people like to say competent. He was, better than competent those last 6 games of the year. Didn't have a lot of weapons, and he obviously looked comfortable in that offense. Chuba Hubbard was good at running back, and he looked good as if he was now the future starter for the Carolina Panthers. So he's kind of moving up a little bit the boards like we talked about. And again, I have no problem taking any of those guys. Once you get towards the 20, 25 range, they're all kind of the same to me. I could take an upside for a Bryce Young. Like I could take a Bryce Young over a Tua, a Geno, a Stafford if you're looking for possible upside because it's in that range of outcomes. We haven't seen it yet, but he's a former number 1 overall pick. The interesting thing for me with the Bryce Young talk is more linked to Tet McMillan. It's because he'll be going earlier in drafts, and some people love him. And my whole thing is I'm a little bit lower on Tet McMillan. The situation's great. He's the number 1 receiver in this Carolina Panthers offense with Dave Canales. An offense has had success in his time in the league. But how good is Bryce Young going to be? That's what I'm saying. If you love Tet McMillan, you think Bryce Young is going to be good enough to make him a top receiver in fantasy. And if you don't, you're not high on Tet McMillan. So I'm kind of in between. I'm not as high as everybody else on Bryce Young after that finish last year. So that makes me a little bit lower on Tet McMillan.
Nice catch.
But I can certainly see, what people are talking about, the way that he did look, because he looked good towards the second half of the season. I'm just not ready to, as you mentioned, you need to see it to believe it. I need to see it again this year to believe it with Bryce Young. If he starts off the year like he finished in the first 5 or 6 games, he looks that good, okay, I'm in. Tet McMillan's going to be a great play the rest of the year. But if he struggles early and once again looks like maybe he did to start the year last year before he was benched for Andy Dalton, then Tet McMillan has a problem, and certainly you do if Bryce Young's your quarterback.
Oh, for sure. I got the same feeling about Bryce Young. I do want to highlight. I did watch Jackson Dart. He looked pretty good.
Yeah, he did.
He made us look good. I got to be honest.
That's our guy. I get it. Yeah.
We were one of the few, and Nick was even there earlier than I was.
Prospect,
So hats off to Nick. He had him earlier than I did.
Yeah, you had him ahead of Shedeur as well.
I did. And it's funny we talked about Shedeur. Let me just say this too. And to me, the whole Shedeur Sanders thing in Cleveland is getting weirder and weirder. So Dillon Gabriel came out, said he's not a celebrity, he's just there to be a competitor. Then he tried to clean it up.
Do you think that was directed? I mean,
yeah. And here's the problem I have with, and I'm look, this is a bigger rant, and I don't care. I'm going to say it anyways. Oregon, people in Oregon that are the Oregon Ducks. Question: why the hell do you guys think you're Alabama? My whole entire life, Oregon has been nothing. And I'm saying it respectfully. You guys have had good football programs, some really good basketball programs.
They made one national. I think Cam Newton got them the one time. That was the one time they made a national championship. Right. I think they made it once.
I mean, I have an enduring memory of Joey Harrington. Like, I'm just saying, like, why does Oregon think they're so good? The fact that Dillon Gabriel said that, if you remember what the coach there at Oregon said when they played Colorado, he basically kind of said the same thing. And here's the thing about Dillon Gabriel. Look, go out there and compete. I'm all for it. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to take shots at a fifth-round QB.
In your own quarterback room.
In your own quarterback room. You know what that tells me? That tells me Shedeur you're not better than Shedeur. Or you don't feel you are. Because if you truly felt you were this better than Shedeur, why would you even address Shedeur? It just doesn't make sense to me. I'm not going to address you if I know I'm better than you. You took a shot because you think that that's the reason why Shedeur is looking. Look, I saw that game with Dillon Gabriel. He was nothing special. Shedeur looked better. I'm not going to say Shedeur was phenomenally better, but he looked better than what Dillon Gabriel was out there doing. And I'm just saying, at the end of the day, you guys are both, you're a second-round draft pick that I thought was questionable. I thought you were a reach. And then Shedeur was a fifth-round draft pick. You guys should be concentrating on getting in that quarterback room and getting better. If you're over there taking shots at a guy who's in the same position you are, I just don't know what it is. And that's why I say, to me, this is an Oregon thing. I don't know why Oregon thinks that, maybe it's the Phil Knight and Nike money.
You think they'd be, I mean, again, they get a lot of that. They get a lot of money.
They get a lot of money. You got like
they'd be a little bit better.
Variations of their uniforms.
I mean, I'm just saying,
Yeah, like to me, they walk like they're Ohio State, like they're Alabama.
So this was the tough play again. Overall, you watched the game. He had some solid moments.
He did.
But that one there, 2 turnovers, a fumble and a handoff. He hadn't played obviously at Oregon under center at all, so he's got some under center there.
Because Oregon's offense is trash. That's right, I said it, trash. And I just don't understand why he was taking this high. I didn't think the guy was that great at Oregon.
Yeah, and I was higher on Dillon Gabriel than most people. I didn't have him getting taken in the third round either. To your point, again, you saw some good things out. He kind of looked a little Tua-esque in this start.
Correct.
But again, it was the turnovers, the interception. It was a first start, so it is what it is. It's going to be interesting to see how this quarterback battle unfolds. Today, Cleveland Browns naming Joe Flacco the starter for Week 1.
Shocker.
Now, if you look at the front of that schedule, it's top loaded. They got a really tough first however many games, and then obviously after that, maybe they are 1-6, et cetera, through the first 7. They make that switch to one of those other guys. I don't see Kenny Pickett being on the roster. Rumors coming out they will keep 4 quarterbacks, but I just find hard to believe to do.
I don't
but as of right now, it'd be Flacco, Pickett, Gabriel, and then Shedeur being quarterback 4 on that list. So again, we'll see. Not many people, as we talked about on this show in the previous weeks, not many people had Dillon Gabriel ranked higher than Shedeur Sanders as a prospect.
No.
So again, that's what made it fishy the whole first place, that Cleveland took him, that early, and then actually doubling back and getting Shedeur in the 5th, which I think was even a worse move. I wish he would have landed somewhere else. But gives him a chance to play, so we'll find out. It was unfortunate that Shedeur is dealing with an injury. The only reason why he didn't play on Saturday here against the Eagles. So that was unfortunate, but we'll see if he's healthy going forward there. But definitely going to be an interesting situation in Cleveland. I don't know if anybody, that whoever starts for the Browns is not going to be fantasy relevant this year.
No. And at the end of the day, my feeling is, if you need to take a flyer on a guy and say you're in a keeper league, I'd probably take a flyer on Shedeur, and I wouldn't draft him. if you're in a fantasy league where they allow you to
Dynasty
keep,
especially.
yeah, I would probably take a Shador, see what you got there long term. But I'd probably take Jackson Dart before him, if I'm being honest. Yeah. Cam Ward's another guy I would probably target as a rookie.
And again, like you said, before the draft heading in, you're thinking, Shador, Dart, all in the same thing. But now, once you saw where they were drafted, the reps kind of here in the preseason, I'm with you. I'd take Jackson Dart over Shador. I mean, just because the situation alone, he's looked fantastic. I don't know what. I mean, Russell Wilson's looked good too, but we know what we're getting with Russell, obviously.
Sure.
Right? So could be a big year for Malik Neighbors with whoever is there, because Russell can get the ball to at least a receiver. So we'll see that. But it's going to be interesting to find out when, or not a lot of time or an opening in that schedule for the Giants, who have the toughest schedule in the NFL, to where you can throw Dart in there. They kind of have a late bye week. So that kind of makes it, if it was earlier, week 7, 8, then you have a chance to go through that week, bring him in later for the second half. But that late bye week kind of makes it tough on him. So we'll see if we see Jackson Dart at all this year. So we'll revisit that fantasy discussion if he does, in fact, become the starter later on in the year. So there you have it on our quarterbacks. There they are. And, of course, maybe we'll get them to Dennis so you can check out the website. You can find our rankings and tiers potentially on DETV.com. Let's head over now, as we are running now close to 8 o'clock here, but we got to get through our tight ends. So it's now the time to talk a little tight end action here in our tiers. Top 20 for you as well, Matthew, here?
I ain't go top 20. I went top 15.
Even better. We're going to do that then. Let's rock and roll and start with tier number 1. So my tier number 1, Matthew, is I've seen tier 1s with one guy in it. I've seen the tier 1s with the top 2 guys in it. And for me, I'm going to tier the top 3 guys together here for me. Bowers, McBride, and Kittle, I think those are by far a step ahead of the next tier. I think those are the top 3, and it's by a good margin. How's your tier 1 look?
I have Bowers and McBride as my tier 1. Kittle's injury is what keeps him out, his injury history from me being in tier 1, but I have him in the next tier 2 at 3.
So there you go. Let's talk a little bit about Bowers and McBride. So both of them just target target fiends in their offenses. Brock Bowers is going to be the number 1 pass catching option for now. It's going to be an improved offense, right? You add Ashton Genty in the backfield for a team that had no run game last year. Now you add Geno Smith to a team that alternated between Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. So a little bit of an upgrade all around there, with Geno, with Ashton Genty. So you would think it would be an uptick for Brock Bowers, who had the best rookie tight end season we've ever seen. So obviously he's my number 1 as well. And you look at Trey McBride, I think Trey McBride could even end this season with more targets than Brock Bowers. Maybe even be close on receptions, maybe lead the league or lead tight ends in receptions. The issue with McBride in the past, and not a big issue because he's obviously our second-ranked tight end, is he can't find the end zone. He can't sniff the end zone. No, 1 touchdown last year, and it was a touchdown run.
All right.
It's he had this kind of weird, allergic to the end zone, allergy to the end zone when he was at Colorado State. It was just something that's kind of hampered him throughout his career. But again, he's been in a Cardinals offense that hasn't been great through the air. Kyler Murray's more of a make a play, scramble, throw the ball, not an on-time quarterback. But McBride's still been really good. But is there any way that he doesn't catch a touchdown this year? Like, there's just no way that can happen again, right? I mean, it went back to college. We've seen it in the NFL. But that's got to change, or do you think that's just something about Trey McBride? I mean, there's just no way. I think he's got to catch some touchdowns, right? I'm with you.
I think it changes. I think the Cardinals realize they got to put him in better positions, and I think that they know that he's a talent. And I think they got to put him in better positions. I think that's been the biggest problem with the Cardinals. I think they've been so talent deficient that they don't really have
when they
just gave the ball to Connor a lot of times. I think Connor will actually take a step back this year with the goal line vultures. I just don't think he's going to get those opportunities as much. I think they're going to try to open up a little bit more and get Kyler Murray in positions where he can make passes in that end zone, especially when they're in the red zone. When they typically went in the red zone for the past couple of years, they just really just gave the ball to Connor or made short dump offs. And I really like what McBride has weapons-wise. I mean, he's got elite hands, size, leaping ability. I mean, he's got it all at tight end. And Bowers, to me, is just, I think he's special. I never understood why he fell in the draft the way he did a little bit.
He did.
It was very incredible to me.
I had him
I
as
didn't
my
understand
6th or 7th overall prospect.
Yeah, me too. And I just thought he was one of the better tight end prospects we've seen.
It's absolutely right.
And not since Tony Gonzalez is the only tight end I can think of that have had equal weight. And that's going to be a problem right there.
Like that's his touchdown right there. I think that's one of the touchdowns he had. That's the kind of touchdowns you had to get out of him last year, which is insane to think about. I do think that will change. Drew Petzing, the offensive coordinator for Arizona, obviously needs to figure something out because, again, I was a huge and still am a huge Marvin Harrison Jr. fan. I think he's one of the best wide receiver prospects we've seen coming out. And for him to have that lack of production last year, I think there's just no excuse for it. I think a lot of it had to do with Kyler Murray. I think, again, he had the trouble with what we saw out of Caleb Williams last year and the question marks that they raised about him was, can you play on time in the structure of an offense? Can you hit that, hitch on your third step and, let that ball go on a first read? And Kyler Murray seems to have struggled with his timing as an NFL quarterback, having that lack of height, et cetera. He wants to move around and escape the pocket and fire on the run, extend plays. And that's just, Marvin Harrison obviously can do that, but I think he would have been better with a different type quarterback situation. So I'm eager to see how that excels this year, how they fix that, Drew Petzing and company in Arizona. Because as you mentioned, they got weapons. Harrison, McBride, Connor, Benson, I think is going to have a bigger role this year in the backfield. So again, some question marks there, but if McBride can just find the end zone and then all their stuff remains the same between him and Bowers, but if he can make up that progression in the end zone, he could be really close to finishing as tight end 1 right with Brock Bowers.
Oh, I think so.
So that'll take us now to our tier 2s. And for you, Matthew, that starts, as you mentioned, with George Kittle. For me, it starts just one spot later with Sam Laporta. So mine runs about 5 or 6 guys deep. Laporta, I've got Travis Kelce up at 5 this year. I know you don't buy it, but I expect a little bit of rebound out of Kelce. TJ Hawkinson coming back healthy at 6. I've got Evan Ingram a little above consensus here at number 7. Tucker Kraft, 8. And then I got Mark Andrews a little bit lower at 9 for my tier 2. How do you start your second tier with George Kittle?
I have Kittle, and then right after Kittle in the same tier, I have Laporta. And then this might shock some people. I actually have Kraft.
There you go. I like it. And again, people have talked about him in training camp, and now with Jordan Love being back healthy 100%, that we saw some unbelievable plays out of Tucker Kraft last year, and obviously he's going to be the tight end in that offense, and you see maybe some more targets coming his way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And again, how do you feel about Mark Andrews here? Where do you have Mark Andrews?
I'm not a big Mark Andrews buyer.
Is he in your top 12?
No.
See, and again, I was with that last year. I liked Mark Andrews at Oklahoma. He's been very good. He's battling some injuries now later in his career. Remember, through the first 6 or 7 weeks, he was nowhere to be found last year, and we were wondering, this might be it. And then he caught, I believe, 7 touchdowns in the next 6 games. It was an unbelievable, 6-game stretch for Mark Andrews. It seemed like he scored a touchdown every single week. But for me, as a likely fan, after that week 1, I thought he would take a bigger jump in that offense. It never really happened. It still was Mark Andrews, for the rest of that season or for a majority of the season. Is this the year when Mark Andrews takes that step back and Isaiah Likely takes that step forward as that pass-catching tight end in the offense? Likely already dealing with some injuries here in training camp, should be ready for week 1. But it seems like, Mark Andrews is still one of Lamar Jackson's favorite targets.
I think he's one of the favorite targets, and I think he's probably a target that he trusts. But at the end of the day, Isaiah Likely, to me, gives Lamar Jackson better opportunities to make more difficult catches. He has a wider catch radius than Mark Andrews does. He's a more athletic guy. He jumps higher. He can grab balls in the air that are a little bit more difficult to grab. And he extends plays better than Mark Andrews. At this point, Mark Andrews, and I respect what he's done and everything that he's put in the work, but he's a possession tight end. And it's not to say that I don't think he's got.
Oh, I think Dennis is playing.
And I'll say this, and I'm glad he put this up because I was just about to talk about this.
And that, again, this was their season. Some would say cost them.
Because this
could have been
right
a better
here,
pass too, though. Could have been a better pass.
This right here is something that I think not enough people are going to talk about with Mark Andrews.
The mental aspect of it.
Yeah, because I saw Nick Anderson in basketball become an 85% free throw shooter to becoming a 45% free throw shooter, just off a situation similar to that. He just missed a free throw, and then that was it. He was never a competent free thrower. And I'm not going to say that Mark Andrews doesn't have the ability to catch balls. I'm just saying you can't tell me this doesn't play on his mind because he had it. It was there. It was theirs to have.
That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up, though, because again, it was after that play. he received death threats for months after that play. I forgot all about it. And then that was a great refresher. That's the last image we have of Mark Andrews playing football was in that divisional playoff game against the Buffalo Bills, and obviously that is what happened there. So
how old is Mark Andrews now?
He's got to be getting close. He's got to be 30 now, right?
I think he's older than 30. I'm going to look this up real quick because I'm just curious.
31, 32?
He's going to be 30 on
so about 30.
the 6th of September. So, you were right.
So, again, battling injuries, getting a little bit older, possession receiver, as you mentioned. He can catch those touchdowns, but how many receptions is he going to have? Obviously, I think Likely could take that role, but I thought he might last year. So, we'll see if he can stay healthy.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm big on I'm big on the value of him. I guess this is what I'm saying with Mark Andrews and why I don't have him in my top 12. Obviously, if you're in a league and people are making those early runs on the tight ends, and you're in a situation where certain guys are off the board. So, like, I'll take, prime example, I would probably take a Kelsey, a Hawkinson, a Njoku, a Evan Ingram, a Dallas Goedert over Mark Andrews. If those guys are off the board, go with Mark Andrews. Or if you are at that situation where maybe you don't like Dallas Goedert as much, or you don't like Evan Ingram, then I would take a Mark Andrews at that time. But if you still have Kelsey, if you still have David Njoku, and one of my guys I think at great value, Tyler Warren, if he's still available, I'll probably take a chance on some of these other guys.
This year. And again, we don't love the quarterback play in Indianapolis, whether that be Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson.
Right.
They both, I mean, Anthony Richardson looks a little bit better than what we've seen in the preseason, but again, it's preseason, so you don't know. But he could be walking into 75 to 100 targets in that offense.
For
and
sure.
Again, he's going to be on the field every snap on that offense. So some targets definitely going to come his way. Whether they're catchable, that's a whole nother discussion. But he's going to have opportunity. And again, we saw Colston Loveland, who the other rookie. I want to talk about these two guys. I had them in my top 12, right there at 10 and 11. Loveland had 2 catches last night for over 25 yards on that opening drive with the starters. He's going to be used as a big-time passing tight end, or receiving tight end in that offense. Cole Kmet is still there, so that dampers him a little bit, but he's going to be doing a lot of the blocking. We're going to see a lot of 2 tight end sets, and I think Colston Loveland's going to be a great pass catcher for Caleb Williams in this Ben Johnson offense. We saw what he did with Sam Laporta in his time with Detroit, so look for Colston Loveland to have an impact. I do love him and Warren, but again, my 2 overall sleepers of the tight ends here, we talked about one already. I have him ranked 7th. I'm above consensus on Evan Ingram. I think you had him a little bit higher than consensus also.
Yep.
But I love Evan Ingram. If I'm going to love Bo Nix as my super quarterback, I do like Evan Ingram in this offense. Sean Payton loves his tight ends. I think he's going to have a big role as a receiver for Denver this year. And then my other one is a guy that's going really late and somebody you can get really late, and that is Brenton Strange. The second-year man out of Penn State, the tight end for the Jacksonville Jaguars, where Evan Ingram just left. So Ingram goes to Denver. Brenton Strange steps up, and whenever he has played, he has averaged double-digit fantasy points as a starter at tight end. So, again, that team has a lot of weapons, so that's why he is going late. You got your Travis Hunters, your Brian Thomas Jr.'s, obviously Travis Etienne out of the backfield. But Strange is going to be that new starting tight end, and I think he's going to catch a lot of targets. I think he's going to catch a lot of balls in this Jacksonville offense. So he is my sleeper. I've got him at 16th, right behind Dallas Goedert, who I have all the way at 15. So Brenton Strange at 16. If you wait tight end and you punt and they start going early, as Matthew alluded to, get Brenton Strange late in your drafts. I don't think you'll be disappointed.
So I got to ask this question because this is the one tight end that if you said athleticism,
I should have worn his jersey. And I wore it on the show.
Does Michael Penix finally, in the 5th year of Kyle Pitts' NFL career, does he unlock them?
And again, you have to elaborate on the term unlock, but I think, again, we remember Kyle Pitts, before we talk about tight end prospects coming out, you said one of the best ones before Bowers, they were easily, right? 1,000 yards, first ever rookie tight end to have 1,000 yards, his rookie season. Seems like 10 years ago, right? Has not touched that since.
No.
But again, you look at last year, Kirk Cousins was one of the worst quarterbacks in the league.
Sure.
We saw Penix a couple games down the stretch.
You talking about Captain Mid that way?
Captain Mid, I got that to Matthew. Again, he's not even Captain Mid anymore. We've had him for 2 years. We're going to have to throw him a funeral. That's right. We're going to throw him a funeral. That name is now, I believe, to Sam Darnold. We'll
it's Jared Goff, baby.
Oh, my goodness. They didn't even get to the championship game, so you're right about that.
Yeah, there you go.
From last year. But losing my train of thought for Kyle Pitts. I've got him up this year above consensus, Matthew. I have him at 13, which is way above where other people have him. I do. Michael Penix, their golf buddy. Everybody likes to say their golf buddy is a big thing. I don't really buy into that too much. But when he goes up on the podium and he says, Kyle Pitts is going to have a lot of catches this year, which he has said during training camp, during his press conferences. Again, for me, the issue wasn't Kyle Pitts getting open or the talent. It was Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator who, again, kills every fantasy option you've ever had. If he's your offensive coordinator, don't draft anybody on that offense unless it's Jonnu Smith.
Correct.
Right? So we're going to see what happens in at tight end. I think it's going to be a way better offense. He'll have way more opportunities for a quarterback that can sling it. Michael Penix Jr. can absolutely throw. He's one, in my opinion, one of the best pure passers in the pocket with that rocket arm that we're going to see. So I think it is an uptick here. I think Drake London's huge. He's my number one. Him and Bijan, I think you have to take somewhere if you can in that order. And then I think Pitts, I have him at 13. I'm above consensus. So to answer your question, Unlocked, I think close to it. I think we're going to have an up year for Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, unlocked him. I think if he gets 700 yards and 6 touchdowns, I think that's unlocked.
I mean, I'll take the 6 touchdowns. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think the highest he's had was last year. We had 4.
Yeah.
I mean, his total career, he's only had 10 touchdowns.
I remember, I think that first year we talked about the
he only had
rookie rate, that one, right? Yeah, it was in London. He had no touchdowns in the United States. He had 1 touchdown in London against the Jets. Couldn't score on American soil. So
could not score.
Him and McBride got to figure out that issue.
Yeah.
But again, I have him at 13, so I have him above Goddard, above Kincaid, above Jake Ferguson with the Dallas Cowboys, who a lot of people love with Dak Prescott coming back. But yeah, I think this is a year where I'm happy taking Pitts late because he's going late.
Yeah, I like that. Oh, I like that. I'm a fan of Pitts. I got him 14.
You have any sleeper tight ends or any guys maybe at the back end that you really like that you'd be okay with taking late?
Okay with taking late is
And then
diabolical.
we're going to get to Dennis's questions of the night.
I think, to your point, Strange is going late. I think I'm interested to see if Freiermuth can be a
That's
guy.
gonna be an interesting one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Now with Jonnu Smith in there, like how's that
Because,
gonna
and here's
work?
the problem with Rodgers. Rodgers has never been a guy that's really good at tight ends. For his whole career, he's never, Jermichael Finley, he's had some really good tight ends.
Jimmy Graham for a little while.
Jimmy Graham for a little while. I don't know about that. I'd like to think that also I'm interested in Mike Gesicki with Cincinnati.
Playmaker, yeah.
I'm interested with
I
that.
have him out of my top 20, and that's a close one. He should
Burrow
be maybe in the top
Burrow
20.
he has no problem
He had
getting
some
a tight
big
end.
plays last year. He did.
Yeah.
And again, for me, I also, for me at 19, just there's some other guys. I think some late guys that, Hunter Henry finished as a top 12 tight end last year. Now with Drake May in his second year, he could maybe take an uptick there.
Hunter Henry.
I think Zach Ertz is a solid option with Washington.
Oh, he is, for sure.
I mean, he's going to be, I like, Ben Sinnott, their second year tight end. Maybe look for him to get some more action this year. But Zach Ertz is by far their best pass catching option at the tight end position. I mean, career coming to an end here in the next few years. But he's a third down guy that's going to, you can trust him. He's going to bail you out of some plays, and especially with a quarterback like Jaden Daniels. So Zach Ertz could have an effective year.
Yeah,
all these guys real late in the draft. So it's going to be interesting. But if you can get one of those top 3 guys, and again, Bowers going maybe a little too early for my liking, Bowers and McBride. If I'm on the turn of the second round and I'm coming around, second to third turn, I would take Bowers right around there. But if I'm sitting at 6, which I have my first draft coming up on Sunday, I'm sitting right there, pick 6. So on the way back, it's like pick 17 or 18. So I don't know if I can take Bowers that early, middle of the second round. But if somebody did, I don't think I would go crazy about it.
No, I wouldn't. But I think that's too early for my blood. But.
Yeah, me too, but you never know. In the heat of the moment, we'll find out. Again, a big one for me coming up on Sunday. And then we're going to have our mock draft show Monday to follow.
That's right.
Right here, 12-team PPR mock draft. We're going to have some other people on the show here. We're not going to have all 12 people. That would get a little crazy. We're going to try to fill up with 4 or 5 spots and then have some other guys in there. But Matthew and I will be drafting. We're not sure if Dennis will be drafting with us yet. We're trying to get him to do it. He might be. Says he's going to get down. Dennis, as much of a sports fan he is, has never played fantasy football.
That's crazy.
So we're going to get him going, get him in this mock draft as well as a few other faces around the media you might know or recognize. So before we end the tonight's show, 8:07, we went through our quarterbacks, went through our tight ends. Let's now get to Dennis's question of the night. We're going to go with the question first, then we're going to end the show on trivia. So let's go with our question of the day first, Dennis, if you have both of them. If not, if it's just trivia, feel free to fire that our way as well. But we'll start with the question of the day if possible. Here on DETV Sports on Monday. Now, John Riggins was last week, right? Our last show got us up. We were celebrating that one up here at the desk. That was we won the Super Bowl.
Dennis is a dirty player.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So let's see what he's got for us today. And then he told us before you hear from him, he told us before the show no hints today. He said, we're not giving you any hints. That was going on.
He's hating on us.
That was our pre-production. So Dennis, what do you got?
Here's the question of the day.
Okay.
If you had to choose one for your fantasy football roster, who would it be? So obviously it's Saquon or Jalen Hurts. So now you're talking about, when you look at this question, Matthew, ADP, right? At their draft position, who would you rather have? So Saquon is usually ranked 3rd or 4th, going anywhere from 1 to 6, usually in that range. And then Jalen Hurts kind of in the middle of the 3rd round, or early 3rd, middle of the 3rd, just like all those other 4 quarterbacks that we talked about, kind of going as the 4th of those 4. So would you rather take Saquon if you had a top 5 pick in your draft, or would you rather grab maybe a top receiver or another running back there and grab Hurts later as we round out that tier of quarterbacks?
Give me Saquon, man.
Really?
Give me Saquon.
So I'm sitting at 6 this year, as we just alluded to. I would love if Saquon fell to me at 6, but there's some Eagles fans in our draft. I don't see that happening. I see him going maybe 4 or 5. So I'm going to take, hopefully, a receiver there in the first round.
Okay.
And then I'm totally okay if I can get Jalen Hurts in the third or fourth. I mean, I would rather get, I think, Jalen Hurts because he gives you one of that tier one, or at least my tier one of quarterbacks. So you get your tier one of quarterbacks, and you can still get one of your other top-end talents at the top of the draft. Because let me ask you this, would you rather have Saquon or Jahmyr Gibbs? And is it close for you? Gotta be close, right?
Both of them are good to me.
Close, right? Exactly.
But here's the problem that I think is the reason why I'm making my pick with Saquon. So a tier one quarterback is going to get you, and this is depending on league settings, of course. So maybe you're in a 4-touchdown league or you're in a 6-touchdown league. I don't know what league people play in, but if you go standard ESPN, it's 4 touchdowns for passing and then 6 for rushing. If you're in that kind of a league, I want Saquon Barkley because a tier one quarterback is going to be anywhere between 28 to 30 points. That's tier one quarterback that we're talking about. So if you don't have we don't have Jalen as a tier one. We have him as tier two. So if you have him in tier two, you're talking about probably 28 points being a really good game, and probably anywhere between 26 to 28 points a game is what you're banking on with that. The problem with the running backs are. So you said Gibbs or Saquon. No, it's not really I'm happy either one.
Yeah.
The problem is a tier one running back is 16 to 18 points. The tier two running back is 12 to 14. It's a lot harder to replace a tier one running back than it is a tier one quarterback. Or a tier two quarterback, should I say. A tier two quarterback, I can find something close to that. A tier one running back, there's a good chance I won't be able to find something comparable to that. And I've been in leagues where I've had my tier one back go down, and I've had like a tier 3, tier 2 running back come in, and the production ain't the same, man. Once you lose that tier 1 running back, it is impactful to your fantasy team. Exactly. CMC. Prime
He got me
example.
last year. He got me last year for sure. So there you have it. We differ there. Now let's get to our trivia question of the night. Again, fresh off of Matthew hitting John Riggins 2 weeks ago. Dennis, do you have the score for us?
Yeah, what is the score?
Is it 4-4? 4-3?
I think it's more than that.
More than that, we're winning?
We're winning?
Well, let's get to it anyway.
We gotta be winning.
We're going to have Dennis add up where we are as we head into next week. But let's get today's trivia question. Let's see what he's got for us here on a Monday evening as we wrap up the show, and then Matthew's got a great final thought. Well, here we go. Who was the first quarterback in NFL history to throw for? The camera's blocking that yardage for me, Matthew. What do we got?
400 yards in their very first career start.
Ooh. Now, we remember Patrick Mahomes lit up the world his first, or again, but did he start? He might have started a game the back end of that rookie year that didn't matter when Alex Smith was resting, so that would have been his first game. There's no way. I don't know if he would have threw for 400 in that first game. So 400 yards in their first start. So if you think about
I'm not.
So if you think about it, it's got to be a quarterback you would imagine with some pedigree, right, coming out. See, to me, the questions or the hints that I look for is timetables, right? I'm thinking, like, are we looking back to 19?
Yeah, I'm going to, so.
You know, Peyton Manning had a rough start to his career.
Peyton Manning had a rough start. Joe Montana didn't come out the gates firing. You got Elway.
400 yards in their first
400 yards in their first
start.
I'm going
CJ Stroud doing his first.
I'm going to go with Cam Newton on for my pick. I don't know about everybody else.
Cam Newton, okay.
Go with Cam Newton.
400 yards in their first start.
Wait, you said first start or first rookie start?
The first start.
Oh, so they were rookies in their first start. So again,
Give me Warren Moon.
Warren Moon. So they switched it up. Give me CJ Stroud.
No, hold on. No. Dan Marino. Give me Dan Marino.
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer, yeah.
I got to study my trivia.
What happened to y'all before?
No hints?
No hints.
No. I said always go with your first thought.
Oh, man. Oh, Dennis, you dirty
It's
dog.
amazing you're always that close to it.
Man, I swear, dog. I should have just locked it in. I should have just locked it in.
Oh
my goodness.
God,
I totally ruined myself right there. Oh. That is painful.
Oh, that's a tough one to swallow.
That's
there.
a tough
but
one
that's
there,
how you
man.
know Dennis has good questions, because we're all that close, and it is very entertaining. Well, we are rounding out our show here on a Monday evening. Went through our quarterbacks, went through our tight ends. Monday Night Football has now got underway. The Bengals and the Commanders starters are playing tonight, so they are underway right now. After this, you can switch and check that out. But Matthew, I know you've got a good first or final thought here as we round out the show on a Monday. Is that something that you're ready to break out for everybody at home, or how do you feel? I mean, if you're a fan, if you follow Matthew on Facebook, you might have seen this take a little bit earlier on the week, something that he was passionate about.
I mean, I got questions. And my questions are multi-layered. So, and I'm just going to call this little thing questions. So does the NCAA, you found out Michigan cheated. So the question is, do you really think $35 million is really going to hurt the University of Michigan?
Absolutely not.
Like, and what's to stop the University of Alabama, the University of Penn State, any of these universities where the money is pouring like wine? I think they'd spend $30 million for a win in the national title. We just saw this past season 2 teams that were on the field that were $40 million, at least $40 million, between Notre Dame starting the whole team and Ohio State's whole team. I think they said the total NIL was
top 2 in the country.
Top 2 in the country. So you're telling me that Michigan went out there, did all this stuff. You had Sharon Moore do the Tom Brady where he went through his phone deleting all these weird messages, 41 of them. And then we turn around and now the University of Michigan is saying they don't want to pay the money because there's not enough proof. Well, your guy did the Tom Brady where he broke his phone, basically. So my question I have for the NCAA is, when are we going to get serious about what your role is in this whole thing? And you wonder why you're losing power. You're losing power because people are just not seeing what you do around here. It's like that old Office Space thing. You ever seen that show? What is it you say you do around here? I don't know what they do. They clearly don't do anything significant. And then, are you going to go after Central Michigan? Because Central Michigan played a hand in this. They gave passes to that kid who did all the cheating for Michigan. So is Central Michigan going to get the death penalty because you're too scared to give it away? And we know you're not doing the death penalty anymore. We know that. You proved that with Penn State. If there's ever a time to give the death penalty, it would have been when children were involved. So we know you're not going to do anything like that. Yeah, that would be too, that'd have too many morals in it. So I just got questions. What is it you guys say you do? And then my final question is, so I last year saw Nancy Lieberman go out and scream to the high horses about how great Caitlin Clark is, how great she is. And you women got to respect her. She's the best thing going. I don't understand what you guys are hating on, why you guys aren't singing her praises, yada, 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 all this nonsense. So Nancy, as we're seeing this constant stuff that one Paige Becker is doing, and we see that she's breaking the fastest to get to this many points, the fastest to get to this many assists. We're seeing all this happen. Nancy, why are you so damn quiet now? You were loud as can be, had all the disrespect in the world. I just saw you disrespect Jeff Teague because he said Caitlin Clark ain't had a good season this year. You said he wasn't that great of a basketball player, that he was serviceable. So my question to Nancy Lieberman is, why you got all this love for Caitlin Clark, but you want to be quiet with Paige Becker? Why are you on Outkick? Well, I know why you on Outkick. Why you got love for Caitlin Clark? Oh, I know why you got love for Caitlin Clark. And I also know why it is you don't want to talk about Paige Becker. And I know why it is you had smoke for Cheryl Swoops. And I know why it is that you feel that people should be kissing Caitlin Clark's behind. See, I know what it really is that you're trying to say. I just want you to be a woman and come out and really say what it is you're trying to say, which is, I'm going to let you finish, but you and I both know what you're trying to say. I just want you to go out there and be real. You say you there for the women's game, show it. You don't look like you a WNBA advocate after all. You know what it looks like to me? It looks like it's just politics as usual. You wanted to be in the political discussion and get your name off the ashes of the dust book from the record book from your career that people have long forgotten in the 70s. That's what it seemed like to me, because your name got replaced with people like Cheryl Miller. Your name got replaced by people like Lisa Leslie. And now you want to come out and make your name pop again. That's what it looked like to me. Maybe I'm wrong, but actions speak louder than words, and you ain't had no words, and lately that's been all your action.
Clip that, and we will get that posted for you. But I mean, just to your point, and I don't think it's crazy to say that, right? Clay Clark's not having a great year, and Paige Beckers is having a pretty good year. Fastest WNBA player to 1,000 points and 500 assists in WNBA history, right? So there you go. It's quite the rookie season.
That's a fact. And all these people that came out, they quiet. You can hear a mouse piss on cotton. I just don't understand it.
I don't have to wear my Paige Beckers next Monday for our show. That's what we're going to do here.
That's what I'm talking about.
But that'll do it for Dennis, Matthew, and myself. We'll be back next Monday, a mock draft special, as we are now in the midst of the middle of fantasy football draft season. So if you have any drafts before next week, good luck. Hope you enjoyed our advice, and we will see you next week for the mock draft.